Don't believe you. I think you just deported a U.S. citizen, multiple 2-year-old.
They said the immigration officer said, well, the mother wrote a note in Spanish and said she wanted the kid deported.
And what the Trump regime is lying about is when they cruelly deported the mom, they deported the son with the mom.
You know, of course, he couldn't help himself. At one point during the hearing, he said, the plane is over the Gulf of America. Yeah, the plane is over the Gulf of America, Judge.
A 2-year-old American citizen deported to Honduras by mistake. Sounds crazy, but it actually happened under Trump's watch. And the wildest part, even Trump's own judge called BS on it.
Stop me if you've heard this one. A 2-year-old U.S. citizen ends up on an ICE plane deported to Honduras.
Judge Terry Dowie, a hardcore MAGA guy that Trump personally picked, is now publicly ripping into the administration over this disaster. When a Trump judge starts turning on Trump, you know things have gotten seriously messed up. Stick around to see how Trump's immigration chaos is imploding from within. Ever wonder what happens when you replace actual lawyers with Trump fanboys? The Department of Justice under Trump became a masterclass in how not to run a legal system. Between 2017 and 2021, Trump went on a mission to turn the DOJ into his personal cheering squad, booting out experienced professionals faster than he fires people on The Apprentice.
What did they think was going to happen when they hollowed out the Department of Justice and career veteran, the starters?
These weren't just normal staffing changes. Trump wanted yes men who'd rubber stamp his immigration crackdown without asking pesky questions like, is this legal? Or will this violate someone's rights? He filled key positions with people whose main qualification was watching Fox News and agreeing with everything he tweeted at 3 a.m. One appointee to a senior immigration position reportedly asked in a meeting, wait, so asylum seekers actually have rights? Another couldn't explain the difference between administrative and criminal immigration proceedings during their confirmation hearing. But hey, they both had MAGA hats and undying loyalty, so obviously they were perfect for determining the fate of thousands of immigrants. This loyalty over brains approach created a legal dumpster fire. Picture this. Lawyers who couldn't find Honduras on a map suddenly handling complex asylum cases.
We're taking 2-year-olds who are U.S. citizens with Louisiana birth certificates. Last time I looked, I was in the United States, and sending them to Honduras.
Staff who thought habeas corpus was a spell from Harry Potter trying to defend deportation orders in federal court. The result, a DOJ that became the legal equivalent of a clown car. Meanwhile, groups like the ACLU were filing lawsuits faster than Trump could misspell unprecedented in a tweet.
Now you have cases being filed by these renowned immigration groups and the ACLU.
Cases challenging the travel ban, family separations, and asylum restrictions flooded in, overwhelming these unqualified appointees. Court dockets filled up like Trump's plate at a McDonald's buffet.
Dowdy was the judge that MAGA and Trump and others filed purposely in his Western District of Louisiana.
The DOJ under these loyalists became so dysfunctional that cases sat untouched for months. Evidence went missing. Legal procedures were ignored. It was like watching a toddler try to perform brain surgery. Horrifying, but also kind of impressive how thoroughly they could mess it up. This incompetence cocktail eventually led to one of the most jaw-dropping failures: the deportation of a 2-year-old American citizen to Honduras. Yes, you read that right. They deported a toddler who was actually a U.S. citizen. The legal equivalent of putting the wrong person's name on a birthday cake, except instead of embarrassment at a party, it created an international incident.
Even a federal judge who's bright red MAGA in Terry Dowdy didn't think that was a good idea, and we break it down for you on Legal AF.
Don't believe you. I think you just deported a U.S. citizen, multiple 2-year-old.
When Trump's MAGA train started rolling through America's judicial system, he made sure to plant his flag strategically. Judge Terry Dowie wasn't just any Trump appointee. He was one of 3 specially selected MAGA judges strategically positioned in Louisiana, handpicked to be the administration's reliable rubber stamp. But even the most carefully selected judicial ally has limits, and that toddler deportation disaster was about to expose them. Picture this: a 2-year-old 2-year-old American citizen gets shipped off to Honduras, and the case lands on Judge Dewey's desk, the same judge who Trump personally installed to make sure his immigration policies would sail through smoothly. Talk about awkward family dinners at the MAGA clubhouse.
Without due process. He's not just violating court orders and sending people to countries they're not supposed to be sent to under constitutional precepts.
During the hearing, Judge Dewey didn't exactly follow the Trump loyalty playbook. When government lawyers claimed the child's mother had conveniently written a note in Spanish requesting the deportation, Dewey wasn't buying what they were selling.
They said, the immigration officer said, the mother wrote a note in Spanish and said she wanted the kid deported.
How do I know that? How do I get her on the phone? He demanded, looking at the government lawyers like they just tried to convince him the earth was flat.
Of them go to federal judges. But now you have to bring him this terrible case with terrible facts of a 2-year-old U.S. citizen.
The judge even pointed out that by the time anyone realized the catastrophic error, the plane carrying this American toddler was already over the Gulf of America. Not exactly a great look for an administration that promised to put America first, unless they meant putting Americans on flights to other countries against their will.
How do I get her on the phone? Oh, well, we released her from ICE custody. She's now somewhere in Honduras. And he's like, are you kidding me?
What makes this judicial rebellion so juicy is that Dewey wasn't some Obama holdover or deep state conspirator. He was Trump's guy, hand-selected by the MAGA movement to protect their agenda.
You know, of course, he couldn't help himself. At one point during the hearing, he said, the plane is over the Gulf of America. Yeah, the plane is over the Gulf of America, Judge.
Instead, he found himself publicly questioning the administration's blatant disregard for proper procedures and due process. It's like hiring a bodyguard who then calls the cops on you for suspicious behavior.
All the stuff you're telling me about this 2-year-old U.S. citizen with a U.S. father and a mother who you deported is all hearsay. I need
The implications went beyond just embarrassment. As Judge Dewey noted, this case could spiral into a complex legal battle, similar to the Elian Gonzalez situation. The child's rights as a U.S. citizen could be exercised, hopefully, by a guardian to come back to the United States. Translation: this isn't just going away with a presidential tweet or Fox News segment.
The 2-year-old has rights that could be exercised, hopefully, by a guardian to come back to the United States because they are a
And what the Trump regime is lying about is when they cruelly deported the mom, they deported the son with the mom.
So what we've seen is a perfect illustration of Trump's management style coming back to bite him in his orange butt. By clearing out the Department of Justice and filling it with yes men instead of actual legal experts, he created a legal dumpster fire that even his own judges couldn't ignore. When Pam Bondi's crew got overwhelmed by lawsuits from the ACLU and immigration groups, Trump's whole agenda stalled out.
And the Trump regime DOJ led by Pam Bondi, the idiot crew, can't keep up with this stuff.
They couldn't even consolidate cases properly, which led to what lawyers call a full court press of challenges nationwide. The lesson: loyalty tests might make your ego feel better, but they don't win court cases.